Hi, welcome back everyone. It's Jamie Hartley here again from Crossfader. Today I've got another product review and we're going to be looking at the Pioneer DDJ SB3. It's a Serato DJ Lite enabled controller and it's caused quite a bit of controversy in the DJ industry since it got announced. Why? Well, there's quite an interesting pad scratch pad mode. It's been designed in conjunction with DJ Jazzy Jeff. He got loads of abuse for it and then ended up putting a statement out. All sorts has gone on since this has been announced. This is just an entry-level DJ controller, but it's got loads of creative features packed in there. We're going to take a closer look in particular at that pad scratch mode, but at everything else as well. So if you're a new DJ looking to buy your first piece of equipment, hopefully you can get some insight about this product from this review. Or if you're thinking about upgrading your DDJ SB2, the older model, to this one, you'll get to see the differences as well. Please remember to like, share, subscribe and comment, do all that good stuff to help us keep making videos like this, especially reviews. Let's take a closer look.
This entry-level DDJ SB3 controller is built for the Serato DJ Lite software. Now I've tested it with Rekordbox and with Virtual DJ and they both recognize the controller, however it's not pre-mapped, so you would have to map out all the buttons yourself. So I'd recommend if you're going to buy this controller to use the Serato DJ Lite software. It's just plug and play. There's a USB port that goes to your laptop, there's an RCA master out that you can plug into speakers, there's also a microphone input on the back with its own level, and a headphone port down here on the front, which is an 1/8 inch jack, just like your iPod headphones or something along those lines, just a tiny little one. Let's go over the basic features of this controller that's featured on most controllers, just so any new DJs looking to purchase it understand what the basic features do before we go on to some of these newer features like the FX fade and pad scratch, and just have a look at really what this controller is capable of. First of all, it's got nice cue and play tactile buttons, a very welcome upgrade from the rubber pads that were on the DDJ SB2, the previous model. So this, very welcomed. The cue and play button allows you to basically set a point in the track to work from and go back to. The jog wheel is the same size as the DDJ SB2 and a very similar size to a lot of the other entry-level controllers around this price bracket. It allows you to nudge the track faster or slower. You can turn key lock on and off, so if you nudge the track faster it locks the key of the track but still speeds it up. Turning key lock off, the pitch will go up at the same time. There's also vinyl mode, so when it's turned on you can use this touch sensitive platter on the top to stop the track, scroll it back, scroll it forward and scratch beats. Turn vinyl mode off and that will just nudge the track exactly the same as the outside of the jog wheel. By using shift, you can activate any of these things in the grey boxes, any of these words. So, for example, the jog wheel allows you to search by holding shift and then scrolling forwards, and it'll search even faster through the track. Let's stop the track there. Next up, we also have the tempo adjust. Now, I know a lot of people might think that these are very small, and yes, they are small, but they still work really well, and they're actually really responsive. So, a bit of a technical thing here. If you have a look on the screen, now I'm going to make the finest adjustment possible, and you'll notice just how small of an adjustment I can actually make to the percentage of the track. So, as you can see, you can actually nudge the track by 0.02%. Now, that's a very fine adjustment, and it is, it's very sensitive. You've got to be very tight on the tempo adjust, but it's capable of doing that. So anyone that's thinking of manually beat matching and using this to learn to beat match by ear, which I'd highly recommend, it can be done. So you can easily match up the BPMs, and if you're not interested in using the tempos and want to use syncs, there is that option as well with the sync buttons both here and here on each deck. Now I haven't got anything loaded on the left-hand side yet, so that's why it's not lighting up. The tempo range can actually be changed, so if you want to reach much higher or much lower BPMs, hold shift, press the key lock button, and it'll go from plus or minus 8% faster or slower to plus or minus 16% faster or slower. As you can tell, we can go 16% faster or slower. And again, plus or minus 50%. So it'll sound a bit ridiculous, but the track can be played at much higher or lower BPM values. Let's reset that. Next, moving to the mixer section. There's a browse pot to scroll up and down your library, and then load buttons to load tracks onto the left and right hand deck. Underneath, for each channel, we have 3-band EQ. As you can hear, this is a total kill EQ, so it totally kills each bandwidth, and it sounds quite nice. There is a filter for each channel. Just so you can hear how effective that is, it cuts off right on the high pass just up here. But obviously the low doesn't cut out. There is a headphone cue for both channels 1 and 2 and a master cue as well. There's a headphone level and a master level here. And then a channel fader as standard and a crossfader, just like on any other DJ controller. While we're talking about the crossfader, you can change the curve settings within the Serato DJ Lite setup screen. If we click this gear icon and go to the mixer options, you can change the curve here. So for example, if it's slow, it's more of a fade. If it's fast and you want to practice scratch techniques, you get a cut. Let's stop that track there. Let's now check out some of the performance features on this controller. There's the options to loop down here, which is much nicer the way this is laid out than the previous DDJ SB2. If the track's playing, we can choose what loop length we want. On the Serato DJ Lite software, you can choose 1 beat, 2 beats, 4 beats, or 8 beats. Using these half and 2 times buttons, select your beat length and then press auto loop above to loop the track. You can change the loop length while it's active and it will shorten from the end, keeping the start point the same. By using shift, you can also reloop by pressing the auto loop button again. It will jump back to that point and reloop. There is the manual loop options by holding shift and then pressing half and 2 times to do a manual in and out point. But I would definitely recommend using auto loop to start with. Up along the top, we have the effects. Now to show the effects, it's just this tab here in the software. And we have up to 6 different effects to choose from. Quite basic effects in the Serato DJ Lite software, but that's great for just getting started. Let's just check out some of the effects. First of all, each of these buttons turns the effects on and off. This is the master level for all 3 effects. By holding shift, we can change the beat fraction using 2 and 3. You could combine effects or just have single effects on. What's quite nice is they do work post-fader. In the old Serato DJ intro and the old SB2, they didn't actually work post-fader. So this is a really nice upgrade that I'm really glad to see they've introduced in this new software and new hardware. Something worth mentioning before we move on to the performance pads is that there is the option to have a 3rd and 4th deck, but I wouldn't really recommend it just because there are only 2 channels, and how it works is you have to basically go onto the separate deck and then bring the channel fader down, set the track off, get it on time and everything, then bring the fader back up. It's just by layering 2 tracks in one channel, you get very lost into which you're trying to control, but the options are there. I've now loaded 2 new tracks to check out these all-important performance pads. First of all, hot cue mode. Let's play the track. Hot cues are very popular on nearly every single piece of DJ equipment, and they just allow you to jump to different points saved within the track. You can set them on the fly and delete using shift. Underneath, these bottom 4 pads actually do something different. The first one jumps back to the start. The next one rewinds, fast forwards, and censor. The next pad effects mode is called FX Fade. These are intended for basic effects for when transitioning from one track to another. Let's have a listen to how they sound by themselves. The first 2 pads are just high pass filters that automatically filter the track away. The one underneath is the same but just lasts a bit longer. The next ones are low pass filters. Same lengths of time as the previous ones. Now obviously there's nothing stopping you from just using the filter on the channel here, but this is automated. Next up, These can be pretty cool. This is an echo out, so it loops the track by 1 beat and then fades it back out. The one underneath loops 4 beats, then chops it down to 2, then down to 1, and then just holds it there. So that's kind of like a build-up effect. And the last 2, make sure vinyl mode's turned on and you have a backspin. Let's look at some of those in the mix. We could jump just before the drop, get ready to set our next track off. I'm just going to quickly bring it into the mix. Move to FX fade. Let's maybe try low pass filter. And then I can use hot cue to jump into the track. And that stays on, there's nothing left really there. I could fade the track out. Let's just do one more, back the other way. Jump back to this one. Set it off. Move into the mix and let's put FX fade. I'm going to backspin and then hit my hot cue. Now let's look at the long-awaited pad scratch mode. For this, I'm just going to load up a scratch sound so you can hear exactly what the scratch pads sound like on a very typical scratch sound. How it works is it will scratch the first hot cue that you've got set. So I've got hot cue set on this sound. By holding any of the pads, even when it's not playing, you can hear each scratch. So we've got baby scratches. Underneath, sharper version. And then it gets a bit more complex. And that's a bar in length that just keeps looping. A bit higher pitch. And that's what they all sound like. So they are still quite basic in their length, and obviously you can then decide to start combining them, which is where you can start getting more creative with it. Obviously if the track's playing, you can combine different pads and then release to create a drop. Now let's have a listen over the top of another beat. Please bear in mind that all of this works off the BPM of the track. So this scratch sound I've manually put in as 70 BPM, so it matches the opposite side. But you would have to make sure that the BPMs are matched, otherwise it wouldn't stay in time with the track that's currently playing. Let's have a listen, let's jump into the track. Now with the track playing, what I would do is cut the crossfader off, let the track play, and then we're just going to hold the pad as we knock the crossfader in. So you've still got to use a bit of crossfader, otherwise we'd be holding the pad and then pressing play and then releasing. So I think it's worth starting to use a crossfader anyway, because you want to be learning these techniques manually. Okay, now let's have a listen to it using an actual beat. So for example, let's load that other OJ track back onto this side. And we'll just let that track drop. Set this one off, pad scratch, knock it into the middle. And let go. Now you've got to let go bang on beat, otherwise we're going to be doing a bit of manual adjusting. Press it again, it'll jump back. Now if the sync mode is on, it might throw it out a bit because it depends on what it thinks the strong beats of the track are, and it depends on the style of music you're playing. Let's have a listen. Not too bad on this track. So that's just a really basic overlook into what the pad scratch is. It's up to you to get creative with it. I would definitely say it's still, you're not going to become the world's best scratcher just using this pad mode. It's designed to introduce you to the world of scratching. It's a way of just practicing, listening to those sounds, and yeah, it's quite a cool feature that I'm welcoming on this controller for sure. Last but not least is sampler mode. So whenever a track's playing, whether it's playing or not, you can access a sampler using this icon, and then you can drag and drop samples into the sampler bank. So then it will play that track. If you press shift and sample it, it will stop the sample. Let's stop the track. We don't need it playing, to be honest. And there you see the track playing. So you could have little vocal shots, you could have tags in there, and you can have for the sampler. Underneath the sampler is the trans mode. So if you hold shift and sampler, this is an effect again. If the track's playing, it silences the track certain beat fractions. Let's jump into the track. Back into trans. And you can hear there how that trans effect sounds. That is all we've got access to in the Serato DJ intro software for the performance pads, but you will notice underneath each of these first three are 3 more pad modes. Now they can be accessed in the Serato DJ Pro software. We've got beat jump, roll and slicer. We know that because it's got these little bobbles next to it. There's also a slip mode with those dots as well, which you can access again in the Serato DJ Pro software. The Serato DJ Pro upgrade costs $99 and it unlocks a few of these extra features. Not only can you set up to 8 hot cues, so the bottom 4 pads become hot cues as well, but you can also activate these other performance pad modes. For example, we have beat jump, so if we go to beat jump mode, you can jump left and right through the track at different beat jump values. That's 16 beats. You can change the value of these middle 2 pads and jump forward and backward. Bottom pad's still the same as the fast forward, rewind, back to the start of the track. Roll will loop the track when you hold the pad. And it corresponds to what you've got on the screen on Serato. So your loop options here, if you scroll it down, and the track continues playing. Next one is the slicer mode. This continues to play the track and it actually maps out 8 beats to the 8 pads. If you hold any pad, it loops that beat. There are also access to loads more different effects in the effects, delay, combo filter, pan delay. They're all better quality sounding as well, so that's something to bear in mind, and you can unlock extra effects packs to play around with. The slip mode, if you turn it on here by holding shift and pressing vinyl, allows you to do anything to the track. Using hot cues, for example, it jumps to that point and then goes back to where it would have been. Use the jog wheel, backspin, let go, it goes back to that point. So you can do anything and it will continue to play from its current from the position it would have been at if you hadn't have done anything to the track. So there's another mode there, again shift, and that again to turn it off. Those extra features are really nice, and obviously the Serato DJ Pro software is a great upgrade, but to start out, Serato DJ Lite, you're getting a lot within this controller.
So as you can tell, quite an interesting controller, and that pad scratch mode, you can probably see why a lot of scratch DJs are like losing their minds, but actually I think it's great. You know, you're not going to suddenly turn into Jazzy Jeff by using these pad modes. They are basic. If you're going to overuse them, it will start to sound quite robotic. There's no swing and rhythm to them, so it's a way of introducing you to the turntablism and scratching world without breaking the bank. In the UK, this costs £229. It's an entry-level controller, and you're getting a lot for your money at that price, to be fair. It's a lot of fun to play around with. I personally think it's a decent upgrade from the SB2. I've got the SB2 and I've now bought this in the studio. I much prefer having the cue and play buttons, just that alone. I hated the rubber pads, and also the asymmetrical layout of the tempo adjusts. I'm glad they've moved the left-hand one onto the other side of the jog wheel, because if you're going to be scratching, you would knock the tempo adjust a lot of the time on the old SB2 model. So it's good that they've done that, especially if this is designed to introduce DJs to the world of turntablism. I'd love to know what you think in the comments, but just before you drop a comment asking what I think about this compared to some of the other entry-level controllers, I'll do a separate comparison review where I can get into much more detail and actually compare the controllers. That'll be coming out in the next few weeks, but for now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts, and I will see you in our next product review very soon. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. See you soon.